The first year of Daniel's reign as emperor was filled with challenges he never expected. Military leadership had been straightforward compared to governing 800 diverse systems. Every decision affected billions of lives. Every mistake could cause suffering. The weight of responsibility was crushing at times. But Daniel was not alone. He had built a strong council of advisors from many different species. Each brought their own perspective and wisdom. Together, they worked to transform the empire from a military alliance into a functioning society. One morning, Lisa entered his office with urgent news. Earth has requested a formal state visit. They want you to come home. Daniel looked up from the documents he was reviewing. Home, he repeated softly. I have not been to Earth in 10 years. I wonder if it still feels like home. Only one way to find out, Lisa said. The Earth government has changed significantly since you left. Gregory Palmer is still on the council, but Catherine Ross is gone. There are many new faces. They want to show you respect. Daniel considered this. Arrange it. I should visit Earth. Many of my subjects are human. They deserve to see their emperor cares about their homeworld. 3 weeks later, Daniel's flagship entered Earth's orbit. Looking down at the blue and white planet, he felt strange emotions. Nostalgia mixed with bitterness. Love mixed with anger. This world had shaped him but also betrayed him. The landing ceremony was elaborate. Thousands of people lined the streets of New Geneva. Military bands played. Flags waved. Children held signs welcoming the emperor. It was overwhelming and slightly uncomfortable for Daniel, who had never enjoyed public attention. Gregory Palmer waited at the government center, looking much older than when they last met. His gray beard was now white. His face was lined with wrinkles, but his eyes showed genuine warmth. Emperor Hayes, Palmer said formally, then smiled. Or should I say Daniel? It is good to see you again. Just Daniel is fine when we are alone, Daniel replied. Emperor is a title for public ceremonies, not private conversations. They walked together through the halls of power where Daniel had once been tried and condemned. Palmer noticed Daniel looking at everything with careful attention. Are you looking for something? Palmer asked. I am remembering, Daniel said quietly. This is where my old life ended. Where I stood as a captain and left as an exile. Strange to return as an emperor. Palmer stopped walking. I owe you an apology. A personal one, not just a political one. I voted to exile you. I was afraid of starting a war with the Xinthians. But you were right and I was wrong. You saved 3,000 lives while I was worried about diplomatic complications. I am sorry. Daniel was quiet for a moment. I have spent 10 years being angry about that day. But I have learned something important during those years. Anger is useful in the short term. It gives energy and motivation, but in the long term it becomes poison. I cannot rule an empire while poisoned by old anger. Does that mean you forgive us? Palmer asked hopefully. It means I am letting go, Daniel said. Forgiveness is complicated, but letting go is necessary for moving forward. They continued walking until they reached the old council chamber. It was no longer used for government meetings. Instead, it had been converted into a museum about the founding of the Free Systems Empire. Daniel's trial was featured prominently, with holographic recreations of that day. We turned your trial into a teaching moment, Palmer explained. Students come here to learn about what happens when politics overrules moral duty. We use your story as an example of how institutions can fail. Daniel walked through the exhibit, reading the descriptions and watching the holograms. It was surreal seeing his worst day turned into a historical lesson. One display caught his attention. It was a quote from his trial. When the Xinthians attack Earth, and they will attack, you will wish you had more soldiers like me and fewer politicians like you. Below it, text explained that this prediction had come true. The Xinthians had attacked Earth 2 years after his exile. Only Daniel's intervention, leading alliance forces, had saved Earth from conquest. We make sure everyone remembers that you were right, Palmer said quietly, and that we were wrong. It is painful but necessary. How else do we prevent future councils from making the same mistakes? That evening, Daniel gave a public address in the same plaza where executions had once been held. Hundreds of thousands gathered to hear him speak. Millions more watched across Earth and throughout human colonies. Daniel stood at the podium looking at the massive crowd. He saw hope in their faces. They saw him as a savior, a hero who had risen from exile to greatness. He needed to give them something more valuable than hero worship. Citizens of Earth, he began, his voice amplified across the plaza. 10 years ago, I left this world as a criminal. Today, I return as your emperor. This transformation was not magic. It was not destiny. It was the result of hard work, determination, and the help of many good people from many different species. He paused, letting his words settle. But I did not come here to celebrate my success. I came to remind you of something important. Governments and institutions are created by people. They are not perfect. They make mistakes, sometimes terrible mistakes. When they do, it is the responsibility of individuals to stand up and say no. The crowd was silent, listening intently. 10 years ago, this government made a terrible mistake. They punished someone for doing what was right. They chose political convenience over moral duty, and they paid a heavy price for that choice. When the Xinthians attacked 2 years later, Earth had exiled its best defender. Daniel saw Palmer in the crowd, watching with a sad expression. I tell you this not to shame Earth, but to teach an important lesson. Never trust any government, including mine, to always make the right choice. Question authority. Demand accountability. Remember that leaders are human or Vorn or Kelron or any other species. We all make mistakes. The difference between good governments and bad ones is whether they admit mistakes and learn from them. He leaned forward, his voice growing stronger. The Free Systems Empire exists because individuals refuse to accept injustice. Refugees who would not submit to conquest. Soldiers who would not follow immoral orders. Citizens who demanded better from their leaders. That spirit of resistance to wrongdoing is what keeps any government honest. Never lose it. The crowd erupted in applause, but it was different from the hero worship earlier. It was thoughtful applause. People genuinely considering his words rather than just cheering a popular figure. After the speech, Daniel met privately with Earth's new council. There were 15 members, representing different regions and political factions. They wanted to discuss Earth's role in the Empire. A council member named Helen Brady spoke first. Emperor Hayes, Earth brings significant resources to the Empire. Advanced technology, industrial capacity, military experience. We believe Earth should have a more prominent role in Empire governance. Daniel recognized the argument immediately. It was the same kind of thinking that had led to his exile. The belief that some groups deserved special privileges because of their contributions. Earth is one system among 800, Daniel said firmly. You have one vote in the Grand Council, same as every other system. Your resources are valuable, but they do not entitle you to special treatment. That is the founding principle of the Empire. Equality regardless of size, wealth, or power. But surely you understand that some systems are more important strategically, another council member argued. Earth is the human homeworld. It has symbolic significance. Every system has symbolic significance to someone, Daniel countered. The Vorn homeworld is sacred to the Vorn. The Kelron hive world is central to Kelron culture. If I give Earth special privileges, I must give them to everyone. Then the whole system collapses into competition for special status. Helen Brady tried a different approach. As a human yourself, surely you want to see Earth thrive and lead. Daniel's expression hardened. I am emperor of all species in this empire, not just humans. My loyalty is to the principles we have built, not to any one species or world. If you cannot accept that, perhaps Earth should reconsider its membership. The room fell silent. The council members had not expected such a harsh response. They had assumed Daniel would favor his birth world. Gregory Palmer spoke up, breaking the tension. The Emperor is correct. We are asking for privileges that contradict the Empire's fundamental values. Earth will be satisfied with equal representation and equal treatment. Daniel nodded with appreciation. Palmer had learned from his mistakes. He was willing to support the right position, even when it meant opposing his own council members. The visit to Earth lasted 1 week. Daniel toured military facilities, met with industry leaders, and visited schools where children learned about the Empire. He was treated like a returning hero everywhere he went, but the moment that affected him most came on the last day. He visited his childhood home in a small town outside New Geneva. His parents had both died 5 years earlier, never knowing what had become of their exiled son. The house was now a museum, maintained by the local community. Daniel walked through the rooms where he had grown up. His old bedroom had been preserved exactly as he left it. Sports trophies on shelves, pictures of friends on the walls, a model spaceship he had built as a teenager. Lisa found him sitting on. The years after the Battle of Keros Nebula brought rapid change to the galaxy. The hierarchy's defeat had shattered their reputation of invincibility. Systems across the frontier declared independence or requested alliance membership. Within 3 years, the Free Systems Alliance controlled 400 star systems with a combined population of over 20 billion beings. Daniel found himself leading not just a military force but an emerging galactic power. It was exhausting and often frustrating work. Different species had different needs, different cultures, different ways of thinking. Creating unity from such diversity required constant attention and compromise. He sat in his office on New Haven, the planet that had become the Alliance capital. It was a world built by refugees from 100 different species, where buildings reflected dozens of architectural styles and streets were filled with beings of every imaginable shape and color. It was chaotic and beautiful and represented everything the Alliance stood for. Lisa Cooper, who had stayed with Daniel since those early days as a cargo ship co-pilot, entered with a data pad. She had become his chief administrative assistant, helping him manage the endless paperwork that came with leading an empire. "You have 73 meeting requests this week," Lisa said tiredly. "Council members, military commanders, planetary governors, trade representatives. Everyone wants your time." "Reduce it to the 10 most critical," Daniel said. "Delegate the rest to department heads. I trust them to make good decisions." "You need to be careful about delegating too much," Lisa warned. "Some council members think you are becoming distant. They want to see you more personally." Daniel rubbed his eyes. He had not slept well in weeks. "I cannot be everywhere. If they want a leader who attends every meeting and shakes every hand, they should elect someone else." "They will not elect anyone else," Lisa said gently. "You won the Battle of Karos Nebula. You defeated the hierarchy. People see you as a hero. They trust you in ways they will never trust a committee of politicians." "That is exactly the problem," Daniel muttered. "Too much trust in one person is dangerous." Before Lisa could respond, Zektar entered quickly. His 3 eyes were wide with excitement. "Daniel, urgent news. The hierarchy has sent another ambassador. But this time it is not Torvus. It is High Archon Velkara herself. She has never left the hierarchy core systems in 2 centuries. Her coming here is unprecedented." Daniel stood up immediately. "When does she arrive?" "She is already here," Zektar said. "Waiting in the diplomatic hall. She brought no military escort, only ceremonial guards. She wants to talk." The meeting room was smaller and more private than the one where Daniel had met Torvus. High Archon Velkara sat at a simple table, looking nothing like Daniel expected. She appeared human, though he knew that was just one of many forms the Archons could take. She looked like a woman in her 50s with silver hair and tired eyes. "Supreme Commander Hayes," she said when Daniel entered. "Thank you for seeing me." "High Archon," Daniel replied, sitting across from her. "This is unexpected. The hierarchy does not usually send its highest leaders to negotiate with those it considers inferior." "Times change," Velkara said simply. "The hierarchy has ruled for 3,000 years because we adapt when necessary. You have proven that the old methods no longer work in the frontier. Therefore, we must try new methods, such as?" Daniel asked cautiously. "Peace," Velkara said. "Real peace, not the false peace of submission. The hierarchy formally recognizes the Free Systems Alliance as an independent power. We will respect your territory and sovereignty. In exchange, you respect ours. No more conflict. No more war." Daniel studied her carefully. "Why this change?" "The hierarchy has never compromised before." "Because you have shown us something we had forgotten," Velkara said. "The cost of endless expansion. We lost 2,000 ships at Karos Nebula. More importantly, we lost our reputation of invincibility. Systems throughout the galaxy are now resisting. The more we try to crush resistance with force, the more rebellion we face. You have made conquest too expensive. So you want to stop expanding?" Daniel asked skeptically. "We want to stop wasting resources on wars we cannot easily win," Velkara corrected. "The hierarchy will focus on consolidating what we already have rather than absorbing new territory. We will trade with the Alliance instead of fighting it. This benefits both sides." Daniel was quiet, thinking carefully. This could be a trap, but Velkara seemed sincere. And what she said made sense. The hierarchy's power came from their efficiency. Fighting costly wars against determined resistance was inefficient. "I need guarantees," Daniel said. "Protected borders, trade agreements, and most importantly, a promise that the hierarchy will not interfere with systems that choose to leave and join the Alliance." "Agreed," Velkara said. "We will formalize everything in a treaty. The Karos Accords, perhaps named after your greatest victory, it will mark the beginning of a new era. Over the following months, diplomats from both sides hammered out the details. The Karos Accords established clear borders between hierarchy and alliance territory. They created trade agreements that benefited both sides. They established protocols for peaceful coexistence. When the treaty was signed, 8 years had passed since Daniel's exile from Earth. He had transformed from a disgraced captain to the supreme commander of an alliance that rivaled the greatest powers in the galaxy. But success brought new challenges. As the alliance grew, different factions emerged within it. Some believed Daniel should take more direct control. Others thought he had too much power already. Some wanted aggressive expansion. Others preferred peaceful development. The Grand Council of the Alliance, representing all member systems, began debating a fundamental question. What was the Alliance? A temporary defensive pact or something more permanent? And if it was permanent, what form should it take? Daniel attended the council session where this debate reached its peak. Representatives from 800 systems filled the vast chamber, arguing passionately about the future. A Kelran representative spoke through her translator. The Alliance has succeeded because we act as one. But coordination becomes harder as we grow. We need stronger central authority to maintain unity. A Vorn counter-argued. Strong central authority means someone must hold that authority. We risk creating a dictatorship. The human representative from Earth, a young diplomat named Chris Morgan, stood to speak. Commander Hayes has proven himself trustworthy. He refused absolute power after Karos Nebula when he could have taken it easily. If we need central leadership, he is the obvious choice. This sparked more debate. Some agreed enthusiastically. Others worried about giving too much power to one individual, even Daniel. The arguing continued for hours with no resolution. Finally, Zektar stood and called for silence. We debate endlessly about forms of government and distribution of power. But we ignore the real question. What do the people want? Not the politicians and council members, but ordinary citizens throughout the Alliance. Let us ask them. This suggestion was revolutionary. Galactic politics rarely involved ordinary people directly, but the council agreed to conduct a massive poll across all Alliance systems. The question was simple. Should the Alliance formalize itself as a permanent government? And if so, what should that government look like? The results came back 6 weeks later. 78% of Alliance citizens wanted a permanent unified government, and 69% wanted Daniel Hayes to lead it, with the title of Emperor. Daniel was shocked when he heard the results. Emperor? That is what we have been fighting against. The hierarchy is an empire. I did not build the Alliance to create another one. Titles are just words, Kronik said wisely. What matters is how you use the power they represent. The people are not asking for a tyrant. They are asking for someone they trust to lead them. You have earned that trust through 8 years of service and sacrifice. And what happens when I die? Daniel asked. Do we create a dynasty? Pass power to my children? That is how empires become corrupt. Then build something different, Lisa suggested. An elected emperor. Limited terms. Checks and balances. You can create a new type of government that takes the best parts of different systems. Daniel thought about this for days. He walked through the streets of New Haven, talking to ordinary people. Humans, Vorn, Kelron, Praxians, and dozens of other species. They told him they felt safe because of the Alliance. They had homes, jobs, and futures because he had protected them. A young Vorn child approached him in a market. Are you Commander Hayes? The child asked. I am, Daniel confirmed, kneeling down to the child's level. My mother says you saved us from the bad people, the child said. Thank you. Daniel felt something shift inside him. This was not about titles or power. It was about protecting people who could not protect themselves. That was what he had done on Kepler 442b colony 8 years ago. That was what he had been trying to do ever since. He returned to the Grand Council 1 week later. I will accept the position you offer, he told them. But not as a traditional emperor. We will create something new. An elected position with limited terms and strong oversight. I will serve for 10 years, then the people will choose whether to keep me or elect someone else. The title can be emperor, commander, or anything else. What matters is that we build a... Palmer nodded slowly, accepting the harsh truth. Yes, we need you. Earth needs you. Millions of humans need you. I cannot change the past. I can only ask for help in the present. Daniel studied Palmer carefully. The man looked genuinely sorry, but that did not erase 3 years of exile and hardship. Still, Daniel had learned something important during his time in the frontier. Personal revenge felt good but helped no one. What mattered was protecting innocent people. "I will help defend Earth and human colonies," Daniel said finally, "but not because you deserve it. I do it because ordinary humans deserve protection from the hierarchy. However, my help comes with conditions." "Name them," Palmer said quickly. "First, Earth must join the Free Systems Alliance as an equal member. No special privileges. You contribute ships, resources, and soldiers like everyone else. Second, Catherine Ross must resign from the Council. She made the decision to exile me and she must face consequences. Third, Earth must publicly acknowledge that my exile was unjust and restore my military record." Palmer looked pained. "Catherine Ross still has significant political power. Forcing her to resign will be difficult." "Then let it be difficult," Daniel said coldly. "Those are my terms. Accept them or defend yourselves alone." Palmer was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I will recommend the Council accept your terms. Given our situation, I believe they will agree. We have no choice." "Everyone has choices," Daniel said. "You chose to exile me. Now you choose to accept my help on my terms. Choices have consequences. Remember that." The Earth delegation left 2 days later. 1 month after that, Daniel received confirmation. The United Earth Council had accepted all his conditions. Catherine Ross had resigned. Earth would join the Free Systems Alliance. Daniel's exile was officially ended and his name was cleared, but Daniel felt no satisfaction from this victory. Too much time had passed. Too much had changed. He was no longer the captain who had stood in that courtroom. He was something else now, something harder and more dangerous. Zektar found Daniel on the observation deck of his flagship, looking at the stars. "You seem troubled, Commander. Earth has submitted to your demands. This is a great victory." "It is a necessary transaction," Daniel corrected. "Nothing more. Earth pays for protection. That is business, not victory." "You are not happy they admitted their mistake?" Zektar asked. "Admitting a mistake is easy when survival is at stake," Daniel said. "I wonder if they would have admitted anything if the hierarchy was not threatening them." "I suspect not." "Perhaps you are right," Zektar agreed. "But regardless of their motives, we now have access to Earth's resources and industrial capacity. The Alliance becomes stronger." That was true. Earth brought significant resources to the Alliance. Advanced manufacturing, skilled engineers, weapons technology, and most importantly, dozens of colonies throughout human space. The Alliance now controlled 150 star systems. They were becoming a real power in the galaxy. But growth brought new problems. The hierarchy noticed. They saw the Alliance as a threat to their expansion. For 3,000 years, the hierarchy had absorbed civilizations with little resistance. Now, for the first time in living memory, someone was successfully resisting them. The hierarchy's response was predictable. They sent an ambassador to negotiate. The ambassador was an archon named Torvas, an ancient being who had served the hierarchy for 4 centuries. He arrived with a small escort of ceremonial ships. The meeting took place on a neutral station. Daniel brought Zektar and Kronak as advisors. Torvas brought 2 other archons as witnesses. The archons were tall and elegant, with pale skin that seemed to glow slightly. Their eyes were completely silver, showing no pupils. They moved with the confidence of beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia. "Commander Hayes," Torvas said in perfect English. His voice was smooth and cultured. "The hierarchy has watched your activities with interest. You have built an impressive coalition in a short time." "Thank you," Daniel said neutrally. "Though I suspect you did not come here to give compliments." Torvas smiled slightly. "Direct, I appreciate that very well. The hierarchy wishes to avoid unnecessary conflict. We propose a treaty. The Alliance may keep the systems it currently controls. In exchange, you cease expansion and allow the hierarchy to continue its natural growth in other directions." "Natural growth," Daniel repeated. "You mean conquest and absorption of independent systems?" "We prefer to call it peaceful integration," Torvas said smoothly. "The hierarchy brings order, technology, and prosperity to primitive civilizations. We have done this for 3,000 years. It is our purpose. And if civilizations do not want your order," Daniel asked, "then they eventually see the wisdom of joining voluntarily," Torvas said. "Resistance only brings suffering. We are patient. We always win in the end." Daniel leaned forward. Here's my counteroffer. The hierarchy ceases all expansion into frontier territories. Any system that wishes to join the alliance is free to do so. We coexist peacefully, each respecting the other's territory. Torvus looked genuinely amused. You believe you can dictate terms to the hierarchy? We have 5,000 warships. You have what, 300? 400? You won one battle against a minor expeditionary force. Do not confuse luck with power. I call it skill, not luck, Daniel said calmly, and I have studied the hierarchy extensively. You rely on overwhelming force and superior technology. You have won for 3,000 years because no one could match your power. But warfare is changing. Your perfect formations and frontal assaults are predictable. Your confidence is a weakness. Torvus stood up, his silver eyes cold. You are making a terrible mistake, human. The hierarchy does not negotiate with lesser species. I came here as a courtesy, to offer you a chance to submit peacefully. You have rejected that courtesy very well. The hierarchy will demonstrate why we have ruled for 3 millennia. I look forward to it, Daniel said. After the Archons left, Kronak turned to Daniel with concern. You intentionally provoked them, why? Because war was inevitable, Daniel explained. The hierarchy will never accept an independent power in their territory. They see it as a challenge to their authority. By refusing their offer, I control when and where the conflict begins. Now we prepare on our terms, not theirs. They will bring their full military force, Zektar warned. This will not be a minor expeditionary fleet. They will send thousands of ships. I know, Daniel said. That is why we need to be smarter than them. We need to choose our battlefield carefully. Over the next 6 months, Daniel prepared for the largest battle of his life. He knew the hierarchy would come in overwhelming force. They would want to crush the alliance completely, to show the galaxy what happened to those who resisted them. Daniel chose the Karos Nebula as his battlefield. It was a massive region of gas clouds, asteroid fields, and magnetic anomalies that interfered with sensors and communications. The hierarchy would hate fighting there because it negated many of their technological advantages. Daniel spent months preparing the nebula. He positioned minefields in strategic locations. He established supply caches throughout the region. He mapped every asteroid and gas cloud. He knew this battlefield better than anyone. He also spread his fleet throughout the nebula in small groups rather than one large formation. The hierarchy expected to find a concentrated enemy force they could destroy with superior firepower. Instead, they would face dozens of small units attacking from every direction. The hierarchy fleet arrived 6 months after the failed negotiations. Torvus commanded personally, leading 5,000 warships. It was the largest military force assembled in generations. They entered the Karos Nebula expecting to find the Alliance fleet and destroy it quickly. Instead, they found nothing but clouds and asteroids. Their sensors could not penetrate the magnetic interference. Their communications were disrupted. Their perfect formation began to break apart as ships lost contact with each other. Then the attacks began. Small groups of Alliance ships struck from the clouds, fired on isolated hierarchy vessels, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. The hierarchy ships tried to pursue but crashed into asteroids or got lost in the gas clouds. More Alliance forces attacked from different directions. The hierarchy fleet was being slowly cut apart. Torvus tried to restore order, but the nebula made command and control almost impossible. His ships could not coordinate effectively. Units became separated. Some captains panicked and fired on their own forces by mistake. Daniel commanded from his flagship, the Defiant Justice. He watched the battle unfold on holographic displays, moving units like pieces on a game board. Every move was calculated. Every attack was timed perfectly. This was warfare as art, not brute force. All units execute Phase 3, Daniel ordered. Target their supply ships and communication relays. Alliance forces struck at the hierarchy's logistics and command structure. Without supplies and unable to communicate, even the most powerful warship became vulnerable. The hierarchy fleet began to crumble from within. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it finally ended, the hierarchy retreated in disorder. They had lost over 2,000 ships. The Alliance lost 190. It was the most devastating defeat the hierarchy had suffered in recorded history. News of the victory spread across the galaxy. 3 years had passed since Daniel arrived at Outpost Nero as a broken exile. Now he sat in his own office on the station, looking at reports from 15 different security operations. He commanded 40 ships and over 300 people from a dozen different species. His reputation had grown far beyond what he expected. There was a knock on his door. "Come in," Daniel called. Kronak entered, followed by 3 aliens Daniel had never seen before. They were tall and elegant, with silver skin and 3 eyes. Their clothing suggested they were important officials. "Daniel Hayes," Kronak said formally. "These are representatives of the Vorn Collective. They have traveled far to meet you." The lead Vorn stepped forward. "Commander Hayes, I am Council Member Zektar. We have heard much about your skills. The frontier speaks your name with respect and sometimes fear. We need someone like you. What do you need?" Daniel asked directly. He had learned that frontier politics moved fast. No time for diplomatic games. "The hierarchy is expanding into our territory," Zektar explained. "They attacked one of our colonies last month. 3 million Vorn died. They burned our cities and took our resources. Our military cannot stop them. They are too powerful and too advanced." Daniel knew about the hierarchy. They were an ancient empire that controlled thousands of star systems. They had been slowly absorbing independent systems for decades. Their technology was superior to almost everyone else. Their fleet numbered in the tens of thousands. They were considered unstoppable. "Why come to me?" Daniel asked. "I have 40 ships. The hierarchy has thousands. What can I possibly do against them?" "Numbers are not everything," Zektar said. "We have watched your operations. You defeated superior forces with inferior resources many times. You think differently than traditional commanders. You use tactics the hierarchy has never encountered. We believe you can teach us how to fight them." "And what do you offer in return?" Daniel asked. Zektar gestured and a holographic display appeared. It showed star systems, resources, technology specifications. "The Vorn Collective controls 300 star systems. We have manufacturing facilities that can build ships. We have resources you need. We offer you command of our entire border fleet. 300 ships. Complete authority over tactics and strategy, plus access to our technology and industrial capacity." Daniel studied the display carefully. 300 ships were not enough to fight the hierarchy directly. But with proper tactics and the element of surprise, maybe they could make a difference. More importantly, this was an opportunity to build something larger than his small security operation. "I have conditions," Daniel said. "First, I need complete tactical authority. No politicians second-guessing my decisions during combat. Second, I want to recruit from other species. Your ships, but crews from anywhere who want to fight the hierarchy. Third, any territory we defend becomes part of a new alliance, not just the Vorn Collective." Zektar considered this. The other Vorn officials whispered among themselves. Finally, Zektar nodded. "Agreed, we are desperate. We will accept your terms." "Then I will help you," Daniel said. "But understand this. We will not fight the hierarchy the way they expect. We will be smart, ruthless, and patient. This will be a long war." Within 2 months, Daniel had transformed the Vorn border fleet. He started by throwing away their traditional tactics. The Vorn fought in large formations, trying to match the hierarchy's power directly. That was suicide against a stronger enemy. Instead, Daniel taught them guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, fighting only when they had advantages, never engaging in fair battles because fair battles favored the side with better technology. He also recruited heavily. Word spread through the frontier that the human exile was building an army to fight the hierarchy. Volunteers came from everywhere, species that had lost worlds to the hierarchy, pirates who wanted to fight for something meaningful, refugees looking for a home, deserters from various militaries. The Kelran arrived first. They were insectoid beings who thought as a hive mind. Their queen offered Daniel 50 construction ships and the ability to build bases quickly. Daniel accepted immediately. Then came the Praxians, cybernetically enhanced humanoids who brought advanced technology and engineering skills. They were followed by the Thar, strong warriors from a heavy gravity world. Then the Illith, who were excellent pilots. More species followed. Daniel created something new. He called it the Free Systems Alliance. It was not a nation or an empire. It was a mutual defense pact. Every species kept their independence but agreed to fight together against common threats like the hierarchy. The first major battle came 6 months after Daniel took command. The hierarchy sent a fleet of 800 ships to crush a Vorn colony. They expected easy victory. They brought overwhelming force. Daniel had prepared carefully. He knew the hierarchy would come. He had spent months studying their tactics from old battle recordings. The hierarchy always fought the same way. They formed perfect geometric formations and advanced slowly, using superior firepower to destroy enemies. So Daniel gave them an enemy to destroy. He positioned 200 old, outdated ships near the colony. Ships that looked threatening but were mostly empty except for skeleton crews. The hierarchy fleet approached in their standard formation, confident and powerful. While they focused on the obvious targets, Daniel's real force attacked from 3 different directions. 600 ships that had been hiding in nearby asteroid fields and behind moons. They struck the hierarchy's flanks and rear, where their shields were weaker. The hierarchy commander tried to respond, but his ships were designed for frontal assault, not multi-directional combat. His perfect formation became a liability as ships blocked each other's firing lines. Confusion spread through their ranks. Daniel's forces used weapons specifically chosen to exploit hierarchy weaknesses. The Praxians had analyzed hierarchy shield technology and found frequencies that could penetrate them. The Kelran had built missiles that could bypass their point defense systems. The Vorn had learned to target specific systems instead of trying to destroy entire ships. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the hierarchy had lost 300 ships and retreated. The Alliance lost 70 ships. It was a stunning victory. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within days. The hierarchy, ancient and powerful, had been defeated. Not by another empire, but by a coalition of frontier species led by a human exile. More systems wanted to join the Alliance. Within a year, they controlled 50 star systems. Within 2 years, 100. The growth was explosive. Species that had been conquered or threatened by the hierarchy saw hope for the first time. Daniel worked constantly. He planned defenses for new member systems. He organized the fleet into efficient units. He established training programs so all Alliance forces could work together smoothly. He negotiated treaties and settled disputes between member species. He also never forgot where he came from. Many of the humans joining the Alliance were refugees from Earth's colonies. They told Daniel that Earth was struggling. The hierarchy was pressuring human territory. Earth's military had grown weak from years of avoiding conflict. Kronak found Daniel late one night in his office studying star maps. "You should rest, my friend. You have been working for 20 hours straight." "I am fine," Daniel said, though he looked exhausted. "I am planning our next defensive line. The hierarchy will not stop. They will keep pushing." "You have built something remarkable," Kronak observed. 50 star systems follow your leadership. Billions of beings trust you. You have become what Earth feared you would become. Powerful. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Earth feared the wrong thing. They feared I would disobey orders. But I never wanted power. I wanted to do what was right. They taught me that institutions cannot always be trusted, that sometimes one person must stand up and make difficult choices. And now Earth asks for your help, Kronak said carefully. I received a message today. The United Earth Council wants to send a diplomatic mission. They want to discuss an alliance. Daniel felt old anger stirring. 3 years ago, they had thrown him away. Now they wanted his protection. What did you tell them? I told them I would deliver the message, Kronak said. What you do with it is your decision. Daniel looked at the star map. Earth was marked there, far from Alliance territory. The hierarchy was slowly moving toward human space. Soon, Earth would face the same choice many other species had faced. Submit to the hierarchy or fight and probably die. Tell them I will meet their delegation, Daniel finally said, but here in Alliance space, on my terms. You will help them? Kronak asked, surprised. After what they did to you? I will help the millions of innocent humans who had nothing to do with my exile, Daniel said. But the politicians who sent me here will learn that their actions have consequences. They will learn that I am no longer someone they can command or dismiss. 2 weeks later, the Earth delegation arrived at Outpost Nero. Gregory Palmer led the group. He looked older and more tired than Daniel remembered. With him came 5 other officials, all looking nervous. They met in the same bar where Daniel had first met Kronak 3 years ago. Daniel chose the location deliberately. He wanted Palmer to see how far he had come from nothing. Palmer sat down across from Daniel. Commander! Daniel walked to the corner table where Kronak sat. The alien was large, almost 7 feet tall even while sitting. He had 4 arms, each thick with muscle. His scales were the color of old copper, and his eyes were bright yellow with vertical pupils like a snake. Those eyes watched Daniel approach with obvious intelligence. You are the exile from Earth, Kronak said in perfect English. His voice was deep and rumbling. "The bartender told me about you through our communication link. You want work?" "I need work," Daniel corrected, sitting down without being invited. "But more than that, you need help. The bartender said you have problems with pirates." Kronak's mouth opened slightly, showing sharp teeth. It might have been a smile. "Direct, I like that. Most humans dance around subjects with pretty words. You speak plainly." "I do not have time for games," Daniel said. "I have skills you can use. You have resources I need. We can help each other, or I can go find someone else." "What skills?" Kronak asked, leaning forward. "You come here with nothing. No weapons, no ship, no crew. What can you possibly offer me?" Daniel met his gaze steadily. "I was a captain in Earth's military. I commanded warships. I fought in 12 major battles and won all of them. I know tactics, strategy, and leadership. More importantly, I know how to win against superior forces. And yet Earth threw you away," Kronak observed. "Why should I trust someone their own people rejected?" "They rejected me because I saved lives instead of following political orders," Daniel said. "I made the right choice even when it cost me everything. That is exactly the kind of person you need." Kronak was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he nodded slowly. "I have a cargo ship leaving tomorrow. It carries valuable medical supplies to 3 different stations. Pirates have attacked my ships 4 times in the last 2 months. They know my routes and they know I carry valuable cargo. If you can protect this shipment and get it delivered safely, I will pay you. More importantly, I will introduce you to others who need your skills." "What weapons and crew do I have?" Daniel asked. "The ship has 4 crew members, 2 pilots, 1 engineer, 1 cargo specialist. They are good at their jobs, but they are not fighters. The ship has basic defensive shields and 2 small plasma cannons. Old models, not very powerful," Daniel thought quickly. Weak weapons, untrained crew, and pirates who knew the route. It was a difficult situation, but he had faced worse. "I will need complete authority over the crew during the journey. They must follow my orders without question." "Agreed," Kronak said. "But if you fail, if my cargo is stolen or destroyed, you get nothing, and you will find it very difficult to get any work on this station again." "I will not fail," Daniel said simply. The next morning, Daniel met the crew at the cargo ship. It was called the Silver Wing, though there was nothing silver about it anymore. Years of wear and damage had turned it gray and brown. The ship was small, designed for cargo rather than combat. The crew looked at him with suspicion. The pilot was a thin alien named Vex with blue skin and large black eyes. The co-pilot was human, a young woman named Lisa Cooper who looked surprised to see another human. The engineer was a short, thick alien covered in brown fur called Torque. The cargo specialist was a quiet alien named Syl, who had tentacles instead of arms. "You are the new protection?" Vex asked, sounding doubtful. "One human with no weapons?" "I am your protection," Daniel confirmed. "And I do not need weapons yet. First, I need information. Show me your route. Show me where the pirates attacked before. Tell me everything about how they operate." For the next 2 hours, Daniel studied everything. He looked at star maps. He reviewed recordings of previous attacks. He asked questions about pirate tactics and ship capabilities. The crew slowly began to realize he knew what he was doing. "The pirates always attack in the same area," Daniel said, pointing to a region on the star map. "Right here, near the asteroid field. They use the asteroids for cover and to block long-range sensors. They wait until you are deep in the field, then they surround you." "That is correct," Lisa said. "But we have to go through that field. It is the only route that is fast enough." "Then we will not avoid them," Daniel said. "We will use their own tactics against them." "What do you mean?" Vex asked nervously. Daniel smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "We are going to set a trap." The journey to the asteroid field took 8 hours. During that time, Daniel had the crew practice emergency maneuvers. He tested the weapons systems himself. They were old and weak, but they worked. He also had Lisa teach him the basics of piloting. He had commanded ships in the military, but he had never personally flown a cargo vessel like this. When they entered the asteroid field, Daniel took command. "Vex, reduce speed by 30%. Make it look like we are being careful. Lisa, I want you ready to take full power to the engines on my command. Torque, charge both plasma cannons but keep them on standby mode. Syl, secure all cargo and then get to the emergency pod." "Emergency pod?" Syl asked with concern. "You think we will be destroyed?" "No," Daniel said calmly. "But I always prepare for the worst. Now move." They flew deeper into the asteroid field. Daniel watched the sensors carefully. He knew the pirates were here somewhere, watching them, waiting for the right moment to attack. Contact, Vex said suddenly. 3 ships coming from behind those large asteroids. They are moving to surround us. Perfect, Daniel said. Do nothing. Let them get close. Are you crazy? Lisa asked. We need to run now. Trust me, Daniel said firmly. Vex, I need you to turn 30 degrees left, slowly. Make it look like you are trying to avoid the asteroids, not them. Vex did as ordered, though his hands were shaking. The pirate ships moved closer. They were small fighters, fast and armed with heavy weapons. Against the Silver Wing's weak defenses, they would normally win easily. They are charging weapons, Lisa reported, fear in her voice. Wait, Daniel said, watching the positions carefully. The pirates were spreading out to attack from 3 sides. They were confident. They thought this would be easy. That confidence would be their mistake. Now, Daniel shouted. Lisa, full power to rear shields. Vex, hard turn right and dive under that large asteroid. Torque, fire both cannons at the ship on our left. The Silver Wing suddenly came alive with speed and power. It turned sharply, moving in a way the pirates did not expect. Torque fired the plasma cannons. The shots were not powerful enough to destroy the pirate ship, but they hit the engines. The pirate ship spun out of control and crashed into an asteroid. Keep moving, Daniel ordered. Use the asteroids for cover. Do not give them a clear shot. Vex flew the ship expertly through the dangerous asteroid field. The 2 remaining pirate ships chased them, firing wildly. Most shots missed or hit asteroids. The few that connected were absorbed by the rear shields. They are splitting up, Lisa reported. Trying to surround us again. Expected, Daniel said. Vex, I need you to fly straight at that large asteroid ahead. Maximum speed, we will crash. Vex protested. Do it, Daniel commanded. The Silver Wing accelerated straight toward a massive asteroid. The pirate ships followed, confident their prey was panicking. At the last second, Daniel gave the order. Now, hard turn up, maximum climb. The cargo ship barely missed the asteroid, flying so close that the shields sparked from scraping rock. The 2 pirate ships, following too closely, had no time to react. One crashed directly into the asteroid. The other tried to turn but clipped the rock with its wing, sending it spinning away. Silence filled the bridge. Then Torque started laughing. It was a deep rumbling sound. You did it. You actually did it. We survived! Daniel allowed himself a small smile. We did more than survive, we won. Now let us deliver this cargo. The rest of the journey was peaceful. When they arrived at the first station, word had already spread somehow. The crew of the Silver Wing had defeated 3 pirate ships with no casualties and almost no damage. When they returned to Outpost Nero, Kronak was waiting with several other merchants. The human lives up to his reputation, Kronak announced. My cargo arrived safely and my ship barely has a scratch. I believe we have found someone valuable. The other merchants looked at Daniel with new interest. One by one they approached with offers. Protection jobs, security consulting, tactical planning. Within a week, Daniel had more work than he could handle alone. 3 months later, Daniel had his own small crew. 6 months after that, he owned his first ship. The exile from Earth was building something new in the frontier, something that would grow larger than anyone could imagine. The courtroom was cold and silent. Daniel Hayes stood in the center, wearing his military uniform without any badges or medals. Around him sat hundreds of council members in their high seats. They looked down at him with angry faces. Some looked scared. Others looked like they did not care at all. Director Catherine Ross sat at the highest seat. She was the leader of the United Earth Council. Her voice was cold when she spoke. Captain Daniel Hayes, you are accused of very serious crimes. You disobeyed direct orders. You attacked enemy forces without permission. You put the entire human colony on Kepler 442b in danger. What do you say? Daniel felt anger rising in his chest. He tried to keep his voice calm. I saved 3,000 lives on that colony. The Zynthian fleet was going to kill everyone. I had to do something. You were ordered to retreat, Catherine Ross said sharply. Instead, you attacked a much stronger enemy force. You almost started a war between our species and theirs. We cannot allow such dangerous behavior. Daniel could not believe what he was hearing. Dangerous behavior? I did what any good officer would do. I saw innocent people about to die. I had the weapons to save them. So I did what was right. Another council member named Gregory Palmer leaned forward. He had a long gray beard and tired eyes. You ignored the peace agreements we spent 20 years creating. Do you think you know better than this entire council? Daniel looked around the huge room. He searched for one friendly face. He found none. These people had never been in real combat. They had never watched their friends die in battle. They had never had to make impossible choices in seconds. They only knew how to write papers and sign treaties. They knew nothing about blood and survival. The Xinthians were killing our people, Daniel said quietly. I had the power to stop it, so I stopped it. That is what soldiers do. Catherine Ross continued in her cold voice. And because of your actions, you made Earth look aggressive and dangerous. You damaged our reputation with other alien species. The Xinthians are now demanding that we pay them money. They are threatening to stop trading with us. Do you understand what you have done? They murdered innocent humans, Daniel said louder. They burned homes. They killed children. I stopped them. That was not your decision to make, Palmer shouted. You are a soldier, not a politician. You follow orders. That is all you do. The council members voted quickly. Every single one voted against him. The punishment was exile. They would not put him in prison. They would not execute him. That might make him a hero to other soldiers. Instead, they would make him disappear. Daniel Hayes would be taken far away to the edge of known space. He could never return to Earth. He could never visit any human colony. He would be forgotten forever. Security guards in black uniforms walked toward him. They grabbed his arms roughly. Daniel looked one more time at Catherine Ross. She sat there like a statue, showing no emotion at all. When the Xinthians attack Earth, and they will attack, you will wish you had more soldiers like me, Daniel said. His voice echoed in the quiet room. You will wish you had fewer cowards like yourselves. Catherine Ross did not change her expression. She waved her hand. Take him away. The guards pulled Daniel toward the exit. He did not resist. He walked with his head high. As the doors closed behind him, he heard nothing from the council. They had already forgotten him. They thought his story was over. They were wrong. His story was just beginning. The transport ship was old and dirty. It took 3 months to reach Outpost Nero. Daniel spent those months in a small cell with nothing but his thoughts. He thought about his career. He thought about the people he had saved. He thought about the council members who threw him away like garbage. When the ship finally arrived, the guards pushed him out without ceremony. They threw a small bag with his few belongings after him. Then the ship left quickly, as if they were afraid exile was contagious. Daniel stood on the landing platform and looked around. Outpost Nero was a dying mining station at the edge of everything. The buildings were old and broken. The air smelled like oil and rust. Strange alien beings walked past him without interest. This place was home to criminals, deserters, and people the galaxy wanted to forget. This was where Earth sent him to disappear. This was where they thought his story would end. Daniel picked up his bag and walked into the station. He had no money. He had no friends. He had no weapons. But he had something else. He had skills, knowledge, and a burning anger that would not die. He found a small room in the worst part of the station. It cost almost nothing because it was tiny and dirty. The bed was hard. The walls were thin. He could hear fighting and shouting from other rooms. But it was shelter, and that was enough for now. That first night, Daniel lay on the hard bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about his parents back on Earth. They probably thought he was dead. The council would not tell them where he was. He thought about his friends in the military. Would they remember him? Or would they forget him like everyone else? He made a decision that night. He would not disappear. He would not be forgotten. He would survive this place. He would become stronger. And one day Earth would know his name again. Not as a criminal. Not as an exile. But as something far more powerful. The next morning, Daniel went looking for work. He had been a military captain. He knew ships, weapons, tactics, and leadership. Someone here would need those skills. He walked through the dirty streets of Outpost Nero, watching everything carefully. He saw gangs controlling different areas. He saw merchants selling illegal goods. He saw ships coming and going, carrying cargo that was probably stolen. This place had no laws except one. The strong survived and the weak died. Daniel stopped at a bar called the Rust Bucket. Inside it was dark and smoky. Strange music played from broken speakers. Aliens of many different species sat drinking and talking. Some turned to look at the human who walked in. Humans were rare out here. Daniel walked to the bar and sat down. The bartender was a large alien with 6 arms and rough purple skin. "What do you want, human?" the bartender asked in broken English. "Information," Daniel said. "And maybe work." The bartender laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. "Work? You are fresh from Earth, yes? I can smell it on you. Soft, clean. You will not last 1 week here." Daniel looked directly at the bartender. His eyes were cold and hard. "I am not soft. And I will last longer than you think. Now who here needs someone who knows how to fight and lead?" The bartender stopped laughing. He saw something in Daniel's eyes that made him take the human seriously. "There is a merchant named Kronak, 4-armed Dravian. He has trouble with pirates. He might pay for protection, but he will test you first. He tests everyone. Where can I find him?" Daniel asked. The bartender pointed to a corner table where a large alien with copper-colored scales sat alone. "Right there. But be careful, human. Kronak does not like wasted time." Daniel stood up and walked toward the table. This was his first step. Many more would follow. He did not know it yet, but this conversation would change everything. Not just for him, but for the entire galaxy.